You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Welcome to Smart Sex, Smart Love, where talking about sex goes beyond the taboos and talking about love goes beyond the honeymoon. I'm Dr. Joe Court. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new listeners, and hello again to my regulars. I'm so pleased you're back to join me on Smart Sex, Smart Love. This week, I'm asking about what working in the female Prodomme scene is really like. On this episode, my guest is Mistress Lexi, a popular dom in the adult fetish scene right now. We're going right under the covers of her world, talking about the nitty-gritty of working in the online kink industry. We'll chat about Sissification, cock and ball torture, Findom, Hypnosis, and Chastity. Plus, how exactly did Lexi, known as Dom of the Dead, I love that, I'm going to say it again, Dom of the Dead, became involved in this scene, and what she'd like other potential submissives to know before getting involved in online Findom. Welcome, Mistress Lexi.
Hi.
So happy to have you on here. And there's lots of terms on here that people aren't going to understand that I'm hoping you'll flesh out for us. But actually what I'd like to start with is, could you maybe start with telling us what's the difference between femdom, F-E-M-D-O-M, and Findom, F-I-N-D-O-M?
Well, okay, so they're both obviously a form of domination, and the difference is with Findom, which a lot of people really get confused about it because they think if they pay for sessions, they're doing Findom. That's not the case. Findom is when you're giving money, and that's the fetish. You're giving the money without expecting anything from the dom. They manage your finances. They tell you, okay, well, this is what you spend on this is what you spend on this, and the rest goes to me. And that's how it goes. They control your finances. I've had many situations where I've been asked for a session, an online session, and I go, okay, well, you have to pay this much for it. And they go, oh, I'm not Findom, or I'm not into Findom. Well, that's not Findom. That's being a Prodomme that is charging for sessions and doing things, catering to your fetishes. That's Femdom. So there's like a fine line because it's still like you're still a female and you're still dominating, but like one is completely about dominating your finances and the other one is you're dominating and you're catering to fetishes.
I really appreciate
that's
Go ahead. Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just something that I think it's really important to be able to differentiate between the two because most people don't understand that.
I didn't.
People think if you're...
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. I'm so glad you clarified between the two. And, the reason I wanted to have male and female perspectives on this. So I had Findom, Master Judas on here a while back. And when he was on, he's identifies himself as a heterosexual, white, cisgender male. And after the podcast went out, I got all kinds of emails and texts saying, oh, right, all we need in the world is another white male dom who wants to, humiliate and dominate women and gay men. And I was like, you are not understanding that women, first of all, predominantly, and tell me if I'm wrong, women were originally in doing this. And then men came along after, right?
Well, that's why it's like there's femdom, and it's a majority women. It's actually, there's not a whole lot of men that do it. And there are men that prefer men over women that aren't gay.
Yeah.
There are very many straight men that like to be dominated by men. I actually took on a submissive about a week or two ago, and he actually told me his previous master was a male.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a girlfriend. He's not into men in that way. I think in some senses, men can be a little more, maybe it's the sternness or anything. Like, it's, I mean, obviously there's a difference when it's a man dominating you than a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Both are powerful. You know, I think we both equally are capable of being able to dominate properly. And I think it's a preference for men, or some men, you know. Some prefer not to have a white female or a white male. I mean, some of them have their preference on having like an ebony dom. Like they don't always want the the white female.
Yes.
So there's it's all about preference. It's all about what they want. And there's a lot of doms, like female doms out there, that don't believe that males should be doms either, which I don't agree with at all. I think that's, it's pathetic to sit there and say that men cannot do that just because you dominate men, but we dominate women too. There are female subs. And
I think people, I think people get confused. They get confused between role play. I'm consenting to engage in something that I want to do over this is happening to me and I don't want this and I have to live with this because I could lose my job or my marriage or whatever. People get confused.
Right. And there are people in the industry that really aren't good either. That's another reason why, like, subs need to be careful on who they engage with, because there are some people that will use what they can against a person to keep them around. And I mean, that's in general a life thing. It has nothing to do with just being in the community and it being bad. There are bad people everywhere. But like people need to understand that these people come to us because they need an outlet. They don't have that in their vanilla life where everything, you know, they go to work, they have a family to take care of, they do whatever their daily things are, but then there's something missing for them. And a lot of times it's helpful when they reach out to a dom because nobody else can understand them.
Can we unpack this? Because some people are listening, I'm sure, and they're going, wait, what are we talking about? Dom, money, I'm controlling. Can you just say what's like a typical arrangement that somebody would contact you and want financial domination with you? What would happen?
Okay. So if somebody was to contact me and talk to me about wanting to be a fin sub, a financial sub, then we would go over their finances, what they would want to give me. A lot of times it's like, well, make sure you pay for these bills, you know, which ones are important, get all of your necessities taken care of. And then we go over, you know, what is a weekly amount you would want to give me? And that's something that, like, I would take control of all of that. I'd be like, okay, well, you're doing this, and then the rest goes to me. This is how much money goes to me every week. If this is not something they, like, if they don't do it, then, you know, that's not obeying. You know, I control that. I tell them this is what they give me. You don't give this to me. And, you know, depending on what other kinks there are, there's punishment or play, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And it's all about the kink, you know, like personally, when I if I'm going to punish a sub, or if they're going to deal with consequences from not obeying or doing something like they're supposed to do, I'm not going to give in to one of their kinks because that's rewarding. That's like one thing that people don't understand. Like, if somebody has a kink that's, you know, cock and ball torture, sissification, whatever, their playtime would be including one of those things. Like, if you want to reward one of your subs, you pick one of their one of their kinks and and go with that, and it gives them that chance to, kind of let loose and do something that they don't get to do normally. And some people just like to give money, and I could just be like, well, you're not going to do this with me if you're not going to follow through and do what you're supposed to do. And then they lose that.
Right. It's erotic for them.
Kink, yeah. Like their kink is, here, I'm going to give you this money and this is hot to me. Like it turns me on to give you my money.
Mm-hmm.
It turns me on for you to tell me to give this to you.
But that's a lot.
Now, if they don't.
Isn't that a lot of that? Isn't it a lot of responsibility for you, isn't it? Like, so if you have multiple fin subs, you're like dealing with a lot of people's money. How do you keep all that in order?
I have my ways of keeping track of them. Like I have my own little, like, it's kind of funny because I actually like organize it all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like almost like an organizer, but like on my phone, like,
okay.
Keep track of things. Like I put things in and like I remember because I'm able to go back and look and be like, okay, well, this and this and this is what I'm dealing with right now. Or like I have this guy, and he's going to give me this much. He has this stuff to take care of first, and yeah. But another thing is you can't bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, right. And can you, go ahead.
I can't, like, if you're a dom and especially if you're dealing with a lot of subs, you can't take on too many, and it is a big responsibility because you have all of these people that are, they give you that control. They're giving into you and trusting you with them.
So what does
their fetish?
Yeah. So let's talk about different fetishes that people sign up to want with you. You talk about sissification. So that's being a sissy, right? Is that what that means?
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yes. Sissies typically they like to wear panties, dress up in lingerie, and it makes them feel sexy, but like they're not gay.
Right.
but they like to wear those things.
Is it the humiliation?
Yes, it is. It is all about the humiliation.
Right.
The humiliation behind it. Wearing the panties and going to work with them under their clothes,
mm-hmm.
Or wearing lingerie under their clothes. And the thought that, oh my gosh, what if I bend over and my panties pop out of my pants, and somebody sees and they're like, oh my gosh, like it's kind of like it's a rush for them,
mm-hmm. And you order them.
It happening.
Yep, you're ordering them to do this, right?
Yes. You tell them like, yeah, I want you to, like, you give them tasks. You tell them, yeah, you should, wear these to work, or, I had a guy wear stockings under his clothes or stockings and panties under his clothes to college. He's never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something like he was willing to try, which is another thing. Like limits we can always discuss, but it's something he was willing to try. You tell them, yeah, they want to do it. And it's like, oh my gosh, but what if someone sees? Like it's just something that is hot to them. The thought about it turns them on, it excites them, and they really enjoy it, and they really enjoy the humiliation.
So talk about and cock and ball torture. When it's normally written out, it's CB or acronym for CBT. You may not know this, but as a therapist, CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. So I always joke with therapists, we're not talking about cock and ball torture. They're like, oh my God, what the hell is cock and ball torture? So could you tell the people what that is?
Okay, so cock and ball torture, it's, there's different things that you can do, ball busting. I have people who like to, cause themselves to lose circulation by adding multiple rubber bands around their balls, or I've had a guy put needles in his shaft.
I've had
but
people.
That's something that they wanted.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's something they wanted to do.
Clients talk to me about having a needle through their testicle, but that has to be done by somebody really who knows what they're doing. Oh my God.
Yes. This is something like you can, like, especially with online, it's hard because like you want to tell them to do these things, but you don't want to tell them to do these things if they don't know how to do it.
Right.
Safely.
Right.
And if you want to, and if you're doing it yourself, you need to make sure you're safe doing it. I do a lot of the like rubber bands or shoelace around it.
Yeah.
And I, I ask them how they're doing. I ask them like how they feel, sometimes adding weights to it, I've also done clothespins on the shaft, but it's like, you have to constantly make sure that they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just like tell them to do it and laugh at them, because it's so funny to watch them in pain,
Mm-hmm.
like you want to make sure they're okay and doing it safely.
And I know they enjoy it. People are probably listening to this and saying, how can they enjoy it? But I went to a BDSM conference and they had a dungeon that you could go into. You could watch, you could play, whatever you wanted to do. And there was a guy, and I've only seen this in videos and pictures over the years I've watched porn. And there was this guy, I saw it live, where he had his scrotum nailed down to a board. His shaft and scrotum was pushed out through this board, and he had a full erection that had rope all around it, and he was in the most pleasure he could be in. And you probably witnessed that.
Right. Yeah, I've seen things like that before, and it's something they enjoy.
And this is all online.
And what was that?
It's all online, right? This is something we're talking about online.
Yes, it is. It is all online. A lot. I have done, real-time sessions, but this is online. Majority of my work is online,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have to make sure that they're being safe. Like, you can do video chatting, anything you can to make sure that they're being safe about what they're doing, because their safety is important. Like, if you're any type of sessions you're doing, like, you have to do it in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and people
cock and ball torture is definitely a fun thing. And then like there's ball busting sessions.
Oh yeah,
like,
what's that?
I've done. You kick them in the balls, which I've done that in real life.
Now, don't you have to you have to know what you're doing, right? Because you could really injure somebody, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You really can. But a lot of the times, anytime I do a real-time session, if there's impact play or any type of play like that, I always start out finding out their limits on what they can take first. Like, I'm not going to go full blown on somebody. I had one that I did impact play with, and like I had a paddle and I was, striking him, and I would go harder and harder and be like, okay, so like I wanted to see where his limit was and how hard he could take it. Okay. Because you don't want to hurt someone permanently or cause serious damage to anybody. So you have to make sure that you're doing things right. And honestly, I've tested toys on myself to see how it feels, so I know how it feels on them.
Do clients sign a release so that in case they want to say, well, she did this to me and I didn't ask her, or, it seems like legal problems could happen for you?
There are consent, like especially if I'm doing something like in real time, I will talk to them about like I'll meet up with them, talk to them about it, talk about what we want to do. And then I will have them sign something saying that they agreed to it. Online, it's like they're doing it to themselves, and they also, you have all of the proof that, they consent to it. They asked for it. They made themselves available to do this, and they asked you for it and wanted it, and like I have proof that I was safe about it, but yeah, for real time, if I'm actually like putting my hands on them and doing things, I do make them sign something and agree, like to say like, yes, I did allow, like you did allow this to happen, because you have to be careful. Yeah. You really do. If it's not, you have to make sure it's consensual, and you have to make sure that you have proof that it was, because you could get yourself in trouble.
So let me ask you something.
To be smart about it.
Right. So just like Master Judas, I got the feedback, he hates women, he hates gay men. This is an outlet for him. I can just know that people are going to say she's a misandrist. She hates men. She wants to kick them in the balls. She wants to do all these things. What do you say to that?
I don't hate men. I actually just really enjoy the other, like the kinks that I cater to, like, cause just like these subs that are looking for somebody
Mm-hmm.
that can cater to them and to be that outlet for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way for me.
Oh, talk about that, please. Yes.
Like I'm a dom. Okay. Clearly I am a sadist. I am very into many things, and just making men beg to me turns me on.
Mm.
And it's exciting for me to do it. It's as much of a rush for me as it is for them.
How did you discover that you like this?
Well, in my past relationships, I've always been the more dominant,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never actually been with a man that was into those things. And I started exploring the community, and I also started exploring the different fetishes. I actually had someone tell me about the Twitter community, and that's where I started. And that's where I learned all the different fetishes that there were, because there's so many that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, people don't know this is all over Twitter. That all you have to do is put in Findom and all these words we're talking about today in Twitter, and it'll come up. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. If you just type it in, it tells you stuff. And then, like, I started doing my research. I was into impact play before I even got into, and that's something that, like, I was really just into, was just the impact play and bondage. But like, when I started exploring the community and seeing all the different fetishes, I started getting really into it. And I started realizing I just opened up a whole new world for me.
I love that you're saying this and admitting it, because people would say, like, what is her end goal here, right? So, like, a lot of the straight, like even Judah said, this doesn't turn him on when he's doing it to men, but he does get turned on by the power and control. So there's something about some of it. And you're telling me that it's kind of your kink too, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like he said, it's not because he's doing it to it's not doing it to a male doesn't turn him on. No, it's being the one in control, doing these things. We need that outlet like they do. We need that place we can go to be ourselves and to express ourselves.
And
it being, you can't just walk around in society and be that way.
Yeah.
You can't. It doesn't work that way. So when you have this community, it's your safe spot. And like I said, you're doing for them these things, and they're getting off on it, and it excites them. And it's just as exciting when you're doing it to them.
People don't understand because they get distracted by the details of all this, but this is basic sexuality. It's a place to go and play. It's a place to go and forget. It's a place to go and be what you can't be in real life, no matter what any of us are doing. And that's why I love talking about this. This just happens to be the place you go and the subs that meet you.
Yeah. Yep.
What about female subs?
Exactly.
Do you have females that pay you? Do females pay you?
Oh yeah, I actually really enjoy female subs. They're a lot of fun.
Why? What's different?
It's just different talking to a female, and like this thing. I think that they're more like they're just as obedient and loyal as the males, but like I feel every female sub I have ever dealt with has been a lot more sexual. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that the men aren't, but like I just feel, I don't know. I think women are sexy. So to me, it's just, and it's not that I don't like men or doing these with men, but like, I don't know, just, I really have a preference for the female subs because I think they get more into it. I think they're more sexual about it. I think that, a lot of the times they're more willing to go the distance or further than others are.
This is so interesting. Oh, because I just want to say, my husband and I was watching one night a documentary about strip clubs, and they showed the difference between a strip club that men go to for women and a strip clubs that women go for men. At the one where straight men were going for women, it was quiet and no one's talking. And at the one for women watching men, they're hooting, they're hollering, they're screaming, take it out, like they're more expressive. That's what makes me think about that's the difference maybe between men and women.
I think that there is a difference. I think that they're a lot more into it. I think they're a lot more willing to go further than most subs that I've dealt with. Like any girl sub that I've ever played with, they've just it's hot how into it they get.
We have a few more.
Exciting for me.
I really appreciate how open you've been during this podcast. The final thing we'd like to ask you is, if somebody decides they want to be a Findom or they want to be a Prodomme online like that, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, you need patience, because things don't always happen right away. You have to know what you're doing before you get into it. You cannot just go on and be like, oh, hey, I want money for this session and blah, blah, blah. You need to do your research. You need to know about the kinks. You need to know about finding out limits for the subs, because you don't want to push their limits too much. Like, there's hard limits, there's soft limits. You need to make sure you know limits while you're going into these sessions. Like, you just do your research, have the patience and understanding before you come into the community, because it can be pretty tough to deal with if you don't know what you're doing.
That's really, really good advice. Anything else you want to say before we come to a close and find out where people can reach you?
They can reach me on Twitter if they want to look into more of my stuff. My handle is at LEXI_DAT28. And the name's Domme of the Dead. So if anybody wants to reach out to me or find me, I am more than happy to help new people coming into the community and helping them get verified and get more into and learn more about these fetishes.
One last thing I forgot to ask is, why do you call yourself Domme of the Dead, so people know about that too?
It's actually funny because I'm a huge fan of horror. I love blood and gore. And for 1 year on Halloween, I was just Mistress Lexi, but I decided to change up my name for Halloween. And Domme of the Dead just popped in my head, and then it never switched back.
Okay.
Because it's just something that became part of my brand, because I've always been into the blood and gore. So it stuck.
I love it. It's very, very catchy. And as soon as I heard it, I thought, wow, I just like things like that, because people can remember you. And I also appreciate you coming on the show, so people can get to know not just people that don't understand Prodomme, Findom, online Dom, but so that they can make you a real person, and really understand this isn't, they can make all kinds of comments and troll us on the internet or whatever people do, but you're real people doing this.
Yep, we are. We're just we're really just an average person who's looking for that outlet just like they are.
Love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on my show. All right. Take care.
No problem at all.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Smart Sex, Smart Love. I'm Dr. Joe Court, and you can find me on joecourt.com. That's JOEKORT.com. See you next time.